The year after the boy went to sea, things got worse for his mother and father. Everything in their little garden died, and the few animals they kept, they died too. They became desperate. One evening, they saw on the cliffs above their little house fires burning, and when they went to investigate, they found it was wreckers. Now, wreckers were people who would light fires on the cliff tops to draw ships onto the rocks where they would be smashed to pieces. And then in the morning they would go and collect whatever cargo had been spilt out on the beach. And the mother and father were so desperate they joined those wreckers. And many an evening above their little cottage there was a fire on the cliff top. And one evening when a gale was blowing, they lit a fire, and then there was the sound of splintering wood, the smashing of a ship on a great rock. When they went down to the beach in the morning, there was barrels and wood and caskets scattered all across the beach. But there was also a body. Now, they couldn't afford to leave the body on the beach, and they didn't want to bury it anywhere near the house. But they knew exactly what to do. They had a little boat. And so they dragged the body down the beach and bundled it into the boat, and they set sail for Okwedy Island. Now, they were heading for Okwedy Island because they knew the story of John Paul Jones's Bay. John Paul Jones had been a pirate, and he'd had a first mate whose name was Leaky Porridge, a Tenby man. And it was said that when John Paul Jones died, Leaky Porridge had taken his body over to Okwedy, to a little bay where they used to stop for supplies, for fresh water. And he had taken John Paul Jones's body and he had stuffed it into a crevice so that nobody could find it. And so the couple sailed round to Okwedy Island. They sailed to John Paul Jones Bay, and then they pushed the body out onto the pebbles, and they grabbed an arm each and they began dragging it up the beach over those pebbles. But as they did so, suddenly the canvas shirt that the body had on ripped open, and hanging there around the neck on a leather thong was a pebble, and on the pebble a fossil. The mother fell to her knees over the body, began crying immediately. All the colour drained from the father's face. This was their own son that they had killed. Well, they had no choice. They stuffed his body into the crevice, and then they sailed back home to their little cottage. But nothing went right after that. Things went from worse to worse, and within 2 years, they were both dead. And they do say now that if you go to Okwedy and the wind is blowing in the right direction, and you're standing there above the bay in the evening, you can hear the sound of that body being dragged over the pebbles. Although other people say it's the sound of John Paul Jones and his crew burying treasure.